Hej alle sammen. I skal nu møde Temple Grandin. Dr. Temple Grandin arbejder som professor på Colorado State University, hvor hun arbejder med dyrevelfærd og dyreadfærd. Hun har også skrevet en masse bøger om at møde verden i billeder, og hun er verdenskendt som talerør for en masse mennesker med autisme. Vi har taget kontakt til hende, fordi vi i vores arbejde møder en masse dobbelt exceptionelle børn og unge, som på samme måde som hende oplever verden en lille smule anderledes end de fleste af os. Så vi vil gerne give jer og os en større forståelse for, hvordan det er at møde verden på den måde, og hvilke ressourcer det medfører, når man tænker på den måde. Dr. Grandin har som nævnt skrevet flere bøger om visuelle tænkere, såkaldte visuelle tænkere, og deres uundværlige ressourcer. Hun er selv vokset op i 50'ernes USA, hvor der måske ikke var så meget opmærksomhed på, hvad det vil sige at have en autismediagnose, og hvad det sådan betød i hverdagen. Til gengæld så har hun haft en mor, der har haft et ret godt øje på, hvad det var, at den unge Temple Grandin havde brug for, og hun har i det meste gjort det rigtige for Temple Grandin. Så Dr. Grandin har et unikt perspektiv på, hvad det vil sige at gå igennem verden på den måde, og hun har nogle ret konkrete bud på, hvad det er, at mennesker som hende har brug for. At skelne mellem visuospatiale tænkere og verbalt sekventielle tænkere giver på mange måder god mening. Og det er også vores erfaring i vores arbejde med de her børn og unge, at der er rigtig mange måder at møde verden på, og der er rigtig mange måder at opleve verden på. Dr. Grandin nuancerer de billedtænkerne i to kategorier. En, der tænker i mønstre, og en, der tænker i billeder. Hun skelner altså mellem tre måder at tænke på. Den matematisk mønstertænkende og billedtænkeren og den verbalt sekventielle tænker. Måske det giver meget mere mening, når hun selv forklarer her, hvad det er, hun tænker.
And I was a severely autistic child, no speech until age 4, and I'm an extreme object visualizer. All of my thoughts are in pictures. If I think about grocery shopping, I'm actually walking around in the supermarket I go to right now.
Yes.
It's pictures. And then you have another kind of thinker, the visual spatial. This is your pattern thinker. This is your mathematical thinker. They think in patterns. And the research that I present in my book, Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, shows very clearly that object visualization, where you think in photographs. And how do I get those photographs? Things I've seen, things I've read. And the mathematical pattern thinker are very, very different kinds of minds, different ways of problem solving. Like, for example, an object visualizer like me can see a solution to a problem, and the mathematical mind will calculate. Okay, another example would be seeing risk. I've seen people on airplanes put a cup of water on an open laptop while the plane's flying. I see that spilling and wrecking the laptop.
Yes.
That's seeing risk. Maybe the mathematician might calculate what's the probability that that water is going to spill on that laptop.
Yeah.
There are different approaches to problem solving. And there's an entire chapter in visual thinking on the research projects that show that these are different. And when you get a label like autism, you tend to have maybe an extreme visualizer, an extreme mathematician, and we need to be working on their area of strength. But another kind of autistic person is a word thinker that memorizes facts, all kinds of facts about football or about movie stars, whatever that person's interest is. And when you have a label, they might be more likely to be an extreme object visualizer, an extreme mathematician. And a lot of so-called normal people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking.
Yes.
So I tell business leaders that the first thing you have to understand is that the different kinds of thinking exist. And I was really horrified when I did a book signing talk for visual thinking at a high school, and I spent an hour with their principal, And he didn't know that visual thinking, my type of thinking, object visualization, even existed. And I said, you need me. You live in a hot climate. You want that air conditioning to work in this school?
Yeah.
You're going to need me.
Yeah.
Somebody has to repair that equipment.
Yes.
And it's not going to be the higher level mathematician.
Som Dr. Grandin nævner, så har vi brug for alle 3 typer af tænkning. De fleste af os kan nok lidt af hvert og trives i alle 3 typer af kommunikation, men der er nogen, der kun kan den ene og har meget, meget svært ved de 2 andre. Og det er jo i det store billede en god ting, fordi så har vi eksperter, som er ekstremt dygtige ud i lige præcis en måde at tænke på og løse opgaver på. Men for den enkelte ekspert kan det være vanskeligt at trives i en hverdag, der er designet til gennemsnittet, for eksempel en skolehverdag. Derfor er det vigtigt at få identificeret de her børn, gerne meget tidligt, i forhold til hvilken måde de allerbedst kommunikerer på, og om de hører til dem, der har en udpræget præference. Også her, der har Dr. Grandin nogle gode råd og nogle perspektiver. Så hør med her, når hun forklarer lidt om det, og blandt andet sammenligner en af de 3 måder at tænke på med ChatGPT.
Well, the research that was done, there are some tests that I never can pronounce the name right of the person that does the research. It's Koshevnikov is the name of the person, and it's in the reference list of visual thinking. And she had some tests for just telling the difference between an object visualizer and the pattern visual spatial.
Yeah.
And they're very different kinds of minds. You're probably not going to find this in 5-year-olds and maybe a little bit older, but you can also look at what the kid gravitates towards. If the child gravitates towards higher math, give them higher math books.
Yeah.
I mean, he can, or you get a math program up on the laptop and he can do great work that's 2 grades ahead on a laptop in that same classroom. But I want to see these kids that are different, and a lot of these twice exceptional kids are autistic, get out and get great careers. So the first thing I recommend, we got to expose kids to lots of different stuff. Like, for example, I was exposed to a little flute and I never figured out how to play it. But there'll be another child where you give them that flute and they're going to take off with it and have a career in music.
Yeah.
But you don't know unless you expose. I had lots of art materials. I had lots of things I could build things with. I took a shop class in elementary school. How do you know? You can't find out what you're good at if you're not exposed. If you have a child who's good at math, if you don't expose them to higher level mathematics books, you wouldn't know if they were good at it, because they're going to be a behavior problem in school because they're bored.
Yes.
I was given a little flute, a toy flute. Wasn't expensive. One kid's going to pick that up and play it. I couldn't figure out how to do this on it. On art materials, it was simple stuff: pens, paper, cardboard.
Yes.
Think of what you can do with the Amazon boxes, and they're free. Amazon boxes are free, and they're great for making things out of. Absolutely fabulous. You can do this exposure without, huge cost here.
Yeah.
We used to, my dad's shirts went to the shirt laundry and then come back with a piece of cardboard in them.
Yeah.
I made all kinds of things
Yes.
out of that cardboard, out of those shirts. Now it's Amazon boxes.
Yes.
And they're free. So it's simple things. And old math books. There's all kinds of stuff online. And a lot of these math kids, if they're math kids, they're doing in the US, they're doing a lot of the mathematics with a lot of verbal format. Math kids hate that.
Yeah.
What they need is the old algebra book that you get out of the attic. That is all just the numbers. It's a book that I would use as a doorstop. But there's another child, you give them that old algebra book out of the attic, and they will take off with it. I'm very concerned about losing skills that we need.
Yes.
Another thing I've been thinking about is what's going to happen with artificial intelligence. I can tell you the jobs that it will not replace will be all the hands-on jobs.
Yes.
It's not going to replace a nurse. It's not going to replace somebody that takes care of animals. It's not going to replace people that repair equipment, like elevators, for example. And I've been on lots of bad elevators lately that have
Mm.
not been serviced.
Yeah.
These jobs are not going to go away. Low-level programming is going to replace a lot of that. Animation jobs, it's going to replace. Copy editing, it's going to replace. But I've also been learning some things about AI. In fact, I found the original research paper for the invention of AI. A computer programmer made it out of video game graphics cards.
Yeah.
A brilliant PhD student who never got his PhD invented the program that makes video game electronics be the basis of artificial intelligence. The
Yeah.
paper has over 120,000 citations. But AI is a bottom-up thinker, just like me.
Yes.
And the more things I get out and I get exposed to, the better I can think, because I can take different things and put them into categories, like on a spreadsheet. I make concepts by taking specific examples and putting them in categories. So the other thing about ChatGPT, it's only as good as its database. We've had a thing where it made up, lawyers got in trouble for presenting fake lawsuit data that did not exist. But I know something about surfing the internet. I don't think Chat was able to get into the law databases.
No, no.
And when it was not able to get into the law databases, it just hallucinated and made stuff up.
Yeah.
It's only as good as the database.
Yeah.
But you only let it go into the right database, like a big database of drug compounds. It invents 2 antibiotics that worked. Yeah. You see, it all gets back to the database. And if Chat's running around reading things that's in the gutter, it's going to really give you a bunch of garbage.
Yes.
In fact, in the ancient days of computers, they had a saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
So Chat's only going to be as good as the stuff that's in the database.
Yes.
And if the lawsuit data was not, and court data was not in the database, then it just makes stuff up.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it has a really bad tendency to think it's right.
Opgaven for skoler og forældre er derfor at præsentere vores børn og unge for så mange forskellige typer af udfordringer og opgaver som muligt, så vi giver dem mulighed for at opdage, hvad det er, de er gode til, hvad det er, de trives med. Og det gør måske, at vi skal prioritere andre fag end dansk og matematik og naturfag i skolen, da det trods alt er lidt nemmere at vise sine kreative sider i et sløjdlokale eller et musiklokale, end det er i en dansktime eller en matematiktime. Og det betyder nok også, at vi som forældre skal præsentere vores børn for nogle aktiviteter, som vi måske ikke selv synes er specielt interessante, eller som vi ikke helt er sikre på, at vores børn vil synes er interessante. Men det skal vi måske for at be- eller afkræfte, eller for at afdække, om der ligger nogle skjulte styrker og nogle skjulte interesser gemt. Og når vi så har fundet ud af, hvad børnene de trives med, og hvad de interesserer sig for, hvad gør vi så? Også her har Dr. Grandin nogle tips og tricks. Hør med her.
I did not read at age 8. I did not read. My mother and my 3rd grade primary school teacher were extremely concerned about this. And they were doing kind of the whole word method with what we call the Dick and Jane books, very boring books. And I learned to read by just reading out loud, sounding out the sound of the letters. That worked for me.
Yeah.
And I learned to read very quickly. And I went from no reading to 12 years age level of reading in 1 semester, where my mother just taught me at the kitchen table.
Yes.
Wasn't that hard, but they had to use a different method for teaching reading.
Yes.
Also, let's get a book that's fun to read. Dick and Jane books are stupid.
Yeah.
They would say things like, see Dick, work, work, work. See Jane, run, run, run. Well, we have a children's classic in the English language, The Wizard of Oz. It's kind of like my generation's Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And that's a book that's fun to read.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of book you need to use. But in order to get subjects that are worthwhile to find interesting, they got to get exposed to a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a common interest in autistic kids is transportation, cars, trains, planes. Well, then we want to take and broaden that interest, like draw pictures of different kinds of cars, calculate with math how fast when a car goes at different speeds, what would be the time it would be taken to get between two cities.
Yes.
You broaden that interest.
Yes.
But interests have to start by being exposed.
Tema og niveau skal i undervisningen og øvrige aktiviteter tilpasses elevens interesser og niveau. Hvis vi som mennesker skal føle os kompetente, så har vi brug for at løse nogle opgaver, som vi finder lidt vanskelige, eller som udfordrer os. Vi skal løse opgaver, som har behov for, at vi står en lille smule på tær. Hvis vi ikke oplever, at de opgaver, vi løser, er en lille smule vanskelige, så vil vi ikke rigtig betragte det som noget særligt. Og det kan være vanskeligt at modtage ros for nogle opgaver, som vi ikke rigtig synes er noget særligt. Det er svært at tage det ind som en reel anerkendelse. Så derfor har vi brug for at præsentere de her børn og unge for nogle opgaver, nogle udfordringer, som matcher deres evner. Og det kan være vanskeligt, måske i en klasse med 20 elever eller mere, at møde alle elevers interesse og niveau. Der er nogle måder, man kan gøre det på, eller i hvert fald ramme så mange som overhovedet muligt. Det kommer vi ikke nærmere ind på lige nu. Men hvis I er interesseret i at høre, hvordan vi tænker sådan nogle ting, så er I naturligvis velkommen til at kontakte os. Temple Grandin vil her uddybe behovet for at identificere og imødekomme de her forskellige måder at kommunikere på.
Now, this is what was done with Katherine Johnson, the famous mathematician who hand calculated all our suborbital Mercury flights.
Yeah.
And if those calculations had been wrong, the astronauts would have died.
Yes.
Yes, that was very, very higher math. And when she was a young child, she was moved ahead into higher math very quickly.
Yes.
Another thing I'm very concerned about is someone with my kind of mind would have trouble graduating from high school today.
Yes.
Because I cannot do algebra. But I've had a very successful career. I'm a university professor. And I'm majored in psychology to dodge a whole bunch of math classes. Because I had to drop a physics class and an engineering class because of the math. But then when I got out into heavy construction, building food processing plants, I discovered this other part of engineering that doesn't get enough credit. And they are the people working in the shop. And I call them the clever engineers. And they don't just manufacture equipment, they invent equipment. And I worked with people that could not do algebra. They may have taken some shop classes in high school, barely graduated from high school, and they got 10, 20 patents each. And they're inventing things that the industry is still using. I have looked up the patents.
Yes.
And the thing is, what would happen to them today? Probably be playing video games in the basement because we took out too many of the shop classes where they can get a chance to really excel. And then you got your mathematicians. And those are the individuals who give us the programming to make this Zoom conference platform work.
Yeah.
You see, we need to have both. You need both. There are different ways that problems are solved. And we need the skills of what I call the clever engineers. But I'm saying people that can't become a veterinarian, for example, because they can't do calculus. I don't know a single veterinarian that uses calculus.
No.
Now, they need arithmetic, yes, and there's a bit of math for drug dosing. That they have to learn, and arithmetic. But we're screening out a lot of people that would be really good veterinarians.
Yeah.
That's terrible. See, educators just don't know anything about what's going on in factories. But I want to see these kids that are different, and a lot of these twice exceptional kids are autistic, get out and get great careers. So the first thing I recommend, we got to expose kids to lots of different stuff. And I'm especially concerned that my kind of mind is getting screened out. I cannot do higher math.
Yeah.
But I'm finding in working with my students on statistics, my students are getting into so much high math programming and stuff that they don't even know how to think about simple concepts like continuous variables versus discrete variables.
Yes.
That I understand really well because I visualize the cattle.
Yeah.
You know, we're using this breed of cattle or that breed of cattle.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a discrete variable.
yeah.
And then weight gain would be continuous. Things that basic. And we need these different kinds of skills.
Det er naturligvis ubærligt, at en elev oplever, at der ikke er plads til vedkommendes kompetencer, der er ikke plads til at brillere eller excellere med det, som vedkommende er god til, fordi de kompetencer måske ikke er prioriteret eller synlige i en hverdag. Det kan give mange nederlag, det kan give en negativ selvforståelse, det kan give en manglende akademisk eller faglig identitet, som kan sende skygger langt ind i den her persons fremtidige liv. Det er måske en af de vigtigste årsager til, at vi gør det, vi gør i vores arbejdsliv, at skabe en forståelse for de her forskellige måder at være på i verden, og skabe en rummelighed i de sammenhænge, som der nu er behov for det. Men det er jo ikke den eneste grund til, at det er vigtigt at få identificeret de her forskellige typer af tænkning. Der er samfundsmæssige, der er virksomhedsmæssige og teknologiske gode grunde til at sørge for at identificere de her mennesker. Fordi det er dem, der har de bedste forudsætninger for at rykke samfund og virksomheder og teknologi hurtigt og effektivt. Hør med her, når Temple Grandin uddyber.
Let's just talk very quickly about the jobs that the different minds be good at. My kind of mind be very good at high-end skilled trades. We are going to need people to fix things. This is the job that artificial intelligence is not going to take away. All kinds of fixing things, inventing mechanical devices, mechanical things.
Yes.
You know, people say, oh, computers will run everything. All right, let's go back to elevators. Maybe they'll be computer controlled, but they are still mechanical things.
Yes.
Maybe controlled by a computer. And the visual thinkers, we're going to need them also to protect some of the stuff against hackers. And we need to make sure that we have old-fashioned mechanical controls that if a hacker tells a pump to destroy itself by running dry, for example, it will simply shut down.
Yeah.
Electromechanical. It's not even electronic. The mathematicians are going to be very good at programming computers, very good at chemistry. And they'll be the ones to train ChatGPT, maybe to find new alloys for aircraft engines.
Yeah.
ChatGPT's really good at that. Really good at that if it has the right database.
Yeah.
And then you have word thinkers. A lot of teachers, lawyers, the word thinkers. And an autistic word thinker can often be very good at specialized retail because they're recognized for their knowledge of a product, whether it be cars, cell phones, mobile phones, sporting goods, and help people pick the right product for their use, not just sell them the whole store. But we need these different kinds of minds. Well, I'm not a sequential thinker. One of the big problems my kind of mind has is I do not remember long strings of verbal information. So let's say I'm learning how to run a certain machine. Give me a pilot's checklist with bullet points for the steps. I have no working memory, but I work on stuff, then I can see how, I can see how that machine works. No, it is bottom-up thinking. And I think in specific examples. So you use concept in a very top-down verbal way, but my mind takes specific examples and puts them into categories. I've been doing talks on autism now for almost 40 years, and I'm finding certain things have caused loss of jobs. And one of the number one things is not giving the person a written list on how to do a task that's in sequence. Many jobs are lost over that.
Yeah.
Something as simple as closing out a cash register at a supermarket. Give them a pilot's checklist. I'd show my work off. In fact, I did a Zoom call with an airline. And one of the problems that they have is getting mechanics. Well, the mechanic that's going to be their best mechanic that can fix the planes, what they call the problem birds, that are always going back to the hangar. It's going to be that visual thinker that rebuilt a classic car.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to figure out what's wrong with the problem bird.
Yeah.
That nobody else can figure out what's wrong with her, but she's always back in the hangar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, it's a different kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Also, not making mistakes like the Fukushima nuclear power plant that burned up. And you know why it burned up? Because they didn't put waterproof doors on it to protect the electric emergency cooling pump. You see, the mathematicians didn't see the waves of the tsunami flooding the site. They did a wonderful job on making it earthquake proof. It shook and it shook and it shook. Everything was fine. 20 minutes later, the tsunami drowned the electric pump.
Yeah.
That's where you need someone like me to go, you need to put waterproof doors on it. You see how basic that is? You see, I just see it. But what I've learned is the mathematician doesn't see it.
No.
They calculate what's the risk, but we need both kinds of minds working together in a complementary factor. Like, for example, in my book, Visual Thinking, I wrote the rough drafts, kind of associational, not very well organized. And Betsy, my wonderful co-author, very verbal, she smoothed them all out.
Yeah.
That's different minds working together.
Different minds working together. Det lyder som en organisationskonsulents største ønske, og det har også rigtig mange gode ting for sig. Forudsætningen er selvfølgelig, at de her forskellige hjerner, de bliver set, og de bliver mødt, og de bliver inviteret ind i fællesskabet. Nu lyder det som om, at ansvaret for, at alt det her det sker, det er skoler og forældre og virksomheder og arbejdspladsers ansvar. Og det er det også langt hen ad vejen. Skoler og forældre har naturligvis et stort ansvar for, at børnene lærer de her ting, at børnene får mulighed for at få alle deres kompetencer i spil i en hverdag. Og jo yngre børnene er, jo større er det her ansvar. Men de her børn skal også lære at tage et medansvar. De skal også lære at skubbe på de rigtige tidspunkter og bide tænderne sammen på de rigtige tidspunkter og tage ansvar for, at de, eller medansvar for, at de kommer derhen, hvor de skal hen i skoleliv og i arbejdsliv. Og Temple Grandin, hun uddyber lidt her, hvad hun tænker om det.
Really, really important. Too many of these kids are not learning life skills, shopping, bank account, learning how to save money. Yes, they need to be taught these things. Because I've seen students that were super good academically graduate from college with high honors, and they couldn't keep jobs in the workplace. They had not learned working skills. A lot of people thought it was stupid, but then I would show people my drawings. And when I showed people my drawings, they were impressed. What I learned to do is I learned to sell my work. Here's another one of my drawings. I learned to sell my work instead of myself. That's how I sold jobs, freelance.
Yes.
And I worked with people in these big machine shops that could not do higher math. They could not do algebra, but they had 10 patents of equipment that the industry is still using today, because I looked up the patents.
Yes.
And I know what the stuff is when I look at the patents. I'm very concerned about losing skills that we need.
De her børn og unge har brug for at lære sig selv at kende. De har brug for at vide, hvad de er gode til. De har brug for at vide, hvad de er knap så gode til. Og så har de brug for at tro på, at selvom de møder et samfund, der måske ikke er designet til sådan nogen som dem, så er der en vej igennem. Der er en plads til dem, og hvis de gør sig umage, så skal de nok finde den plads. Forudsætningen for, at de her børn og unge kan lære det er, at de voksne omkring dem tænker det samme, at de tror på det, at de voksne omkring dem har en opmærksomhed på deres styrker, og leder efter dem og finder dem, selvom de måske ikke er sådan helt åbenlyse. Og de voksne omkring dem skal tro på og vise, at de tror på, at der er en plads til de her børn og unge i samfundet, og at det kan betale sig og gøre sig lidt umage for at finde den plads. Det er måske et meget godt sted lige at sige tak til Dr. Grandin. For mit eget vedkommende har det været meget inspirerende at møde et menneske, der så effektivt har gjort sin dobbeltexceptionalitet til en styrke, og som bruger så meget af sin tid på at fortælle sådan nogen som os, der gerne vil hjælpe nogle af de her børn og unge, hvordan vi bedst kan gøre det. Tak til Dr. Grandin. Jeg håber, I er blevet en lille smule inspireret, og hvis I vil dele nogle af jeres tanker med os, så vil vi sætte meget stor pris på det. Tak for jeres opmærksomhed.